Hello and welcome to Total Health with Dr. Nick, where my purpose is to inspire, empower, and motivate you to live longer, healthier, and more abundant lives. And today's video is one that I get a lot of questions about because so many of you out there, literally around the world, want to try the keto diet. But you're thinking, Dr. Nick, I've heard it's not safe. I heard it could be dangerous. I've heard I could get ketoacidosis. My blood sugar could drop. I heard it's an emergency situation for my body. Well, guys, I'm here to dispel a lot of that and to let you know just how safe the keto diet really is. And we're going to go through each one of them one by one. So this video is really all about, is the keto diet safe? And guys, if you like what we're talking about, make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you click that little bell notification so you get notified anytime I do a video. And if you're looking to really foolproof your keto diet and make sure that you do everything right, check out my keto course. I'll put the link down below. I guarantee you're going to find it's the best keto course anywhere on the internet. And also, too, I've got a really great cookbook called KISS, Keto is Super Simple, which really stands for the fact that all the recipes are simple, clean, and healthy. So check that out, too. The link will also be down below for that. Well, let's go ahead and get started on, is the keto diet safe, and just how safe is it? Well, one thing I hear about all the time, and this really came from probably Jillian Michaels, who I did a video debunking what she was talking about with the ketogenic diet. Is the ketogenic diet a state of emergency? Now, I will tell you this, it's not a state of emergency. Think of your body like a hybrid car. So a hybrid car can run off of fuel, or it could also run off electricity. It really can go both ways. Well, your body's the exact same way. Your body can run off of glucose, and it can run off of fats. Now, the brain does need a certain amount of glucose to function normally, but your body can really do super well on fats. In fact, a lot better. Glucose tends to be a little bit of what we call a dirty fuel, which means it gives off a lot of free radicals, whereas fats are a much healthier fuel. So this is not a state of emergency. It's really what our bodies were designed to do as far back as our ancestors. Our ancestors never knew if they were going to have food to eat. They didn't know what they were going to find. They didn't know what they were going to catch or kill. They didn't know what they were going to forage for, so they didn't know if they were going to eat day to day. So our bodies are used to going through a state of feast and famine. It's used to eating a lot and then not having anything for maybe a day or two. So it's really good. It's going from burning sugars to fuel to fats for fuel. The ketogenic diet, sometimes people think of it like a fad also. Well, it's not a fad because once again, it's been around for thousands of years. As I was just talking about, our ancestors have been doing it, really not even calling it the keto diet, for tens if not hundreds of thousands of years. But also too, back in the 1920s, the ketogenic diet was used and really coined the phrase the ketogenic diet because the body went into a state of ketosis, and they found that children with epileptic seizures functioned much better when they had a ketogenic diet. When their body turned to ketones for fuel, the seizures started to go away or at least dissipate or improve. So this is a diet that's been around a long, long time. In fact, I wouldn't even say it's a diet because for so many people, it's really a way of life. Now, you're probably wondering too, isn't a high-fat diet dangerous? Well, I heard fat can cause heart disease, it can cause stroke, it can cause all kinds of clogging of the arteries. It can cause my cholesterol to go up. Well, we're going to touch on each and every one of those, but simply stated as this: high-fat diets are not dangerous. Your body is very, very good at burning fat for fuel, like I talked about earlier, and it's actually a preferred fuel source. But Time magazine said that the argument against fat was totally and completely flawed. This is an article that came out just a few years back where they really talked about the fact that don't blame fats. Fats for decades have been vilified as this horrible food. Don't eat fats. It causes everything, like I said, heart disease to myocardial infarction. It'll clog your arteries. It'll cause your cholesterol to go up. It'll decrease your longevity. The further couldn't be from the truth. And really, where did this come from? It came from one man. It came from a guy named Ancel Keys. Ancel Keys was a physiologist back in the 1950s who happened to catch the ear of Dwight D. Eisenhower, our president at the time. And when Eisenhower had a heart attack, he really looked at Keys as an expert on helping him get through it. And really what Keys did was this. He had it in his mindset, and he really kind of had this already figured out, that he wanted to prove that saturated fats, or fats in general, caused heart disease. So he came up with what we call the Lipid Hypothesis. Now, notice it's not called a lipid law. This is not a law. This was his hypothesis. This is what he thought about it. He basically researched about 23 countries, but he only published the data on 7, and it was then called the 7-country study. Now, why did he do that? because he cherry-picked the data. He picked the data that matched what he wanted it to prove. So when all these other countries were looking at fat calories and the amount of people who died from fat per 100,000, he excluded a lot of these countries that didn't fit his curve that he wanted to. So he only included the ones right on the curve that he wanted to prove his point. And so this, for generations, including up to today, has really vilified fats to where we look at fats like it's the enemy, when really it couldn't be further from the truth. Fat is absolutely necessary and it's absolutely healthy. And after we started taking fats out of our diets, and the USDA started making new dietary guidelines, did we really start seeing our health decline? Our degree of depression went up, our obesity went up, diabetes went up, all because we started taking fats out of our diet and started adding in carbohydrates. Well, a very well-known study in 1948, for 40 years, debunked this whole fat myth. And what they found was this. In the Framingham study, and this was really done in Framingham, Massachusetts, and they picked a group of people, a community that looked like middle America. It just looked like overall everyday Americans, and they studied these people. They split it up into two groups. One group ate a very low-fat diet, low cholesterol diet, and the other group ate a very high-fat, high cholesterol diet, and what they found absolutely blew their minds. The more saturated fat one ate, the more cholesterol one ate, the more calories one ate, the lower the person's serum cholesterol was. We found that the people who ate the most cholesterol, ate the most saturated fat, ate the most calories, weighed the least, and were the most physically active. So what they found was absolutely the opposite of what they thought they were going to find, and that is the ones who had the most calories, the most saturated fat, the most cholesterol, the most fat overall, were actually the healthiest in the end and had the lowest serum cholesterol. You probably have heard that sometimes when you go on a ketogenic diet, it might actually raise your cholesterol, and there is some truth to that. But first of all, understand this. Cholesterol is not the evil villain you think it is. Cholesterol is absolutely necessary. In fact, LDL and HDL are not cholesterol. Check out a video I did on both of these as to what is the real truth about cholesterol. HDL cholesterol is really used to go out and scavenge the leftover cholesterol that's out in the arteries and out in the body and bring it back to the liver for processing. See, cholesterol is super important. Your body prizes cholesterol because it's so important. The LDL cholesterol is then used to make the hormones in your body. So ladies, men, you need proper amounts of hormones to allow your body to work correctly at all. So testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, all these hormones are actually made from LDL cholesterol. So we need them. In fact, through the decades, science has now started to look at cholesterol very differently. 20, 30 years ago, cholesterol was it was bad. You were taught to stay away from it, avoid it at all costs. Then they started looking at cholesterol like maybe it's not so bad. Maybe the incredible edible egg isn't a bad thing. Maybe the yolk isn't bad. Now they're looking at it by saying, eat butter, okay? Eat your butter. Once again, why fat was vilified was simply because of one man's research back in the 1950s that vilified a nutrient that is absolutely essential to human life. In fact, your brain is made of 60% fat and 25% cholesterol. So you absolutely need it, because if you start to reduce your fats too much, you're actually going to end up with depression. So the ketogenic diet works extremely well for cognitive function and helping people's brains work much better. The bigger culprit, however, is triglycerides. Triglycerides are linked to heart disease, and they really come from your body storing sugars in the form of fat. So as your body starts to release the fat that's in your system, your triglycerides will start to go up. But once again, as your body gets used to burning this, then it's going to start to go down. So don't worry about cholesterol and don't worry about your triglycerides, because your body will adapt to it. Now I want to talk briefly a little bit more about cholesterol before I move on. So really, what causes LDL cholesterol to become a bad cholesterol? Because not all LDL cholesterol is created equally. Some is good, some is bad. You probably heard the light fluffy ones are good and the small dense particles are bad. But what causes that? Well, it's very simple. Your liver makes 75% of your body's cholesterol. So even if you reduce cholesterol in your diet, that's 75% of it's not coming from your diet. The majority is coming from your liver knowing it needs cholesterol to be able to carry on normal body function. So this is the problem. When you eat a healthy diet of fruits and vegetables and things like that, mainly the vegetables, your body will take your LDL cholesterol, make VLDL cholesterol, and that VLDL cholesterol will actually then start to produce the light fluffy particles, the ones above 25 nanometers. However, if you're on the standard American diet or anywhere in the world where you're eating a lot of grains and a lot of carbohydrates, especially your processed refined carbohydrates, that's going to cause your LDL cholesterol to make the smaller, denser particles of cholesterol, of LDL cholesterol, that will then embed in the walls of the arteries. That's the bad one. The bad one comes from the fact that you've taken a good cholesterol initially, and instead of turning it into even a better cholesterol by allowing it to stay nice and fluffy, you've made it go bad by eating a lot of processed refined carbs, making the dangerous LDL small dense particles smaller than 25 nanometers. Those are the ones you need to worry about, not the light fluffy ones. So your diet is going to dictate whether you produce healthy cholesterol or bad cholesterol. Now, another thing you're probably thinking about, well, if it's not about cholesterol and I don't have to worry about the heart disease, but what about the fat? I mean, I'm going to get fat eating fat. Isn't that the case? So ketogenic diet is just going to make me fatter. How would it possibly, by eating more fat, make me lose fat? Well, here's the reality. Fat doesn't make you fat. Think about this. If you want to fatten up cows, and farmers do this all the time because as they take them to the market for slaughter to sell, what do they fatten them up with? Well, they fatten them up with grain. They don't give them fat, right? They give them grain. They give them lots and lots of feed, and the feed is all grain. Grain will fatten up the cows. Why? Because anytime you eat grain, it causes the body to spike insulin. Insulin is a storage hormone, so I want you to think of it this way. Insulin insulates, okay? So insulin is going to cause insulation right here, and insulation is the form of fat. So one of the key things and one of the beautiful benefits about the ketogenic diet is that it keeps your insulin and your sugar levels low. So by doing that, your body doesn't store sugar in the form of fat and triglycerides. Instead, it burns fat. So when your body becomes a fat burner rather than a sugar burner, it becomes what we call fat adapted. That means now your body is using the preferred fuel, which is fat for fuel, and it's going to continue to burn that. So, like I said, fat doesn't make you fat. The sugars make you fat. So by eating more fat on the ketogenic diet, you're actually going to burn fat. Well, some of you may have heard, well, what about kidney disease? If I eat the ketogenic diet, that protein, the fat, it's going to start to cause my kidneys to shut down. Well, that's not the case either. In fact, what's been proven is that the ketogenic diet can actually improve kidney function. Diabetic nephropathy, DN, is damage to the kidneys due to diabetes and high blood pressure. It's characterized by damage to your glomeruli, which is the small units within the kidney where the blood is filtered. So here's the key. Anything that you can do to reduce your chances of diabetes and reduce your chances of heart disease or high blood pressure is going to help with your kidneys, because really what causes kidney disease are these things right here. High blood pressure, okay, it's forcing a lot more blood through the glomeruli, the kidney's filtration system. Heart disease, stroke, obesity, family history, and diabetes. Those things right there are the biggest causes of kidney disease. So here's the beautiful thing. The ketogenic diet works with all of this. The ketogenic diet prevents every single one of that. It'll keep your blood pressure down. It'll remove or reduce the obesity. It's going to keep your heart disease down. It's going to keep your diabetes down. And even if you have a family history, so your genetics, I know you're worried about that thinking, but Dr. Nick, I have a family history of this. You can actually affect the outcome of your genes or the expression of your genes with your diet and your lifestyle. That's called epigenetics. Epigenetics is something we do in our office when we test patients. We can test their DNA and find out what's the best diet plan for them, what's the best exercise program, and so on. But your DNA is not your destiny. It doesn't mean you have a death sentence just because you have a family history of diabetes or kidney disease or heart disease. Your lifestyle can actually change how your genes are expressed. So you have control over that. Now, what about these adverse effects I'm hearing about, this keto flu, all right? Is that dangerous for me also? And the answer to that is no. Keto flu is a normal process your body goes through. Basically, your body's kind of like a toddler. It's kicking and screaming, saying, I want my sugar, I want my sugar. And so as your body goes through the transition of burning sugar for fuel to fat for fuel, becoming what we call like I've said many times before in this video, becoming fat adapted, your body's going to start to detox. As you start to lose fat, your body's going to start to detox. As you start to convert from sugar to fat, your body's going to go through withdrawals. It's not used to that. Now, I know you're thinking, well, what about blood sugar? Isn't my blood sugar going to go too low? No, your body's got safeguards against that. So don't worry about your blood sugar dropping too much, because I know you're thinking, well, what about blood sugar plunges? I'm just going to drop so low, it's going to become dangerous. That's not what happens, guys. Your body has the ability, God created our bodies with incredible, infinite, innate wisdom, that if your body's blood sugar drops too low, now, just so you know, initially you're going to think it's low because you're so used to flying on sugar all the time. You're so used to having your muffins and your cakes and your biscuits and your, brownies and things like that and your cookies that your blood sugar is going to drop a little bit, but it's not dangerously low. But here's the beautiful thing. If it does get too low, your body can convert. It can take proteins and convert it to sugar through a process called gluconeogenesis, which means it makes new sugar. And it does it by, once again, converting proteins or other compounds into sugars, so your brain has sugar and your body has sugar. So your body will never get too low in blood sugar being on the ketogenic diet. Now, I know a lot of you are probably thinking, but is this sustainable? Can I really do this? Is it healthy? I don't know if there's enough healthy foods. I've heard my neighbors on a keto diet and he's just having bacon and cheese. Well, I will tell you guys, I talk about this all the time. No swine and cheese parties, okay? That's not what it's about. The ketogenic diet is a very, very healthy diet if you do it properly. I did a video on clean versus dirty keto. Now, a lot of you out there, I know you're saying, hey, Dr. Nick, but I've got my numbers checked. My blood levels of cholesterol, LDL cholesterol, all my serum levels look great. And I've been eating dirty keto. Well, good for you. That's great. I'm happy. But your body, you know it. Your body's going to work a whole lot better if you're eating healthier, higher quality foods than if you are eating junk foods. You know that. I mean, your car can run on junk fuel, but it's not going to run too long on junk fuel before it starts giving you problems. So your body's going to give you problems. So you want to eat as clean as possible. So how do you eat clean? I did videos on this where you can go and see all the different food groups you could eat. Or once again, if you want it just basically given right to you, check out my keto course. But if you're eating healthy quality fruits and vegetables, if you're eating, especially the vegetables, not so much of the fruits, of course, if you're on a keto diet, healthy quality fats and healthy high quality proteins, you've got the best recipe for success there. You're getting really all your food groups. Now, I know you're probably thinking, well, wait a minute. I've heard not to exclude food groups. The ketogenic diet, you don't eat carbs on that diet. Well, guys, it's not really true. You eat lower carb, not no carb, okay? No carb is something more like the carnivore diet, which I've done videos on that. But a lower carb diet, the ketogenic diet is anywhere from 5 to 10% carbs. You might be getting 20 to 50 grams a day initially when you want to keep it low, but some of you might cycle in and out up to 100 grams a day. So you're not excluding a food group here. You're not saying, oh my gosh, God created carbs, now I'm not eating any carbs. That's not what you're doing. You're getting carbs from mainly your vegetables. That's a great way to get it. And like I said, sometimes you guys can cycle in and out and have more carbs in some days than others, and you might want to have sweet potatoes. But here's the thing. First of all, understand this. There are essential fatty acids. You have to have fats in your diet that your body can't make. So you have to have essential fatty acids. You have to have essential amino acids. We know that, okay? We've heard about those. Your body can't make them. But here's the amazing thing. There are no essential carbs. Your body doesn't have essential carbs. I mean, your body doesn't, your body can make carbs if it needs it. So there is no such thing as an essential carb. So yes, you are reducing the carbohydrates. You're not eliminating them. But at the same time, they're not necessary anyway. Your body can function fine without them, and it will make its own. So understand, this is not a no-carb diet. It's just a low-carb diet. It's a higher fat, moderate protein, low-carb diet, and you're getting it mainly from your vegetables. Well, what about muscle gain? Okay, I know you hear about this a lot. Guys are always wondering, hey, I'm working out. I don't want to lose muscle. I'm going to get scrawny. If I'm not getting enough protein, I'm just going to start to get really, really weak. Now, I will tell you this. Your body, because of the process of the ketogenic diet, makes a lot of something called beta-hydroxybutyrate. That's your body's #1 chief ketone. The ketone bodies come from your body burning fat for fuel. Now, Beta-hydroxybutyrate is extremely beneficial for muscle sparing. So when you're on a ketogenic diet, you can actually increase your lean muscle mass. I know it sounds crazy, but you will actually increase lean muscle mass. Not only that, it protects against muscle wasting. So beta-hydroxybutyrate is fantastic at that. So even though you might eat lower amounts of protein, which you don't have to, you can eat about 1 gram per pound of lean body weight. You can still keep the protein up a little bit, and don't worry, it's not going to convert it to sugar. I hear this all the time. People say, well, but what about gluconeogenesis? It's going to convert the excess protein to sugar. Guys, it's a demand-driven process, not a supply-driven process. It only happens when your body needs it when blood sugar goes too low. It's not because you have surplus protein, so don't worry about that. If you want to increase protein a little bit, go right ahead. I increase it, so I might have 45% protein rather than, say, 25%. Prevents fat and weight gain, okay? Increased strength and performance. You know, realize this, your testosterone, and ladies, you need it too, comes from healthy fats. You need the fats to make your hormones. You need it to make healthy testosterone, which is going to help you put on muscle mass, even for you ladies. Now, you're not going to gain as much as guys do. You have about 1/10 of the amount of testosterone as we do, but you still need it for a lot of things, energy, libido, stuff like that. Increases oxygen efficiency, controls blood sugar. That's a big one. Remember, I said you want to keep your blood sugar levels down. Ketogenic diet will help you with that. Improved hormone response. You're going to have a lot better function of your hormones, and faster recovery time. Once again, beta-hydroxybutyrate accelerates recovery time. I did a video on keto over 40. I talked about the recovery rate and the joints healing up faster when you're in a state of ketosis. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is really about ketoacidosis. That's a question I get a lot because people will say, well, wait a minute, I've heard it's dangerous. The keto diet is dangerous because you go into ketoacidosis. Guys, it doesn't happen, okay? It is extremely rare for that to happen. So, ketoacidosis is a serious complication that results from dangerously high levels of ketones and blood sugar, most commonly people with type 1 and type 2 diabetes. So, why do we know that in the ketogenic diet that you're in what we call nutritional ketosis, where your body's in a safe, healthy way? Well, the way you know that is you can test it with a glucose monitor and a ketone monitor. It's very simple. The one I recommend, you hear me talk about it a lot, is Keto Mojo. This is by far the best one I've seen, and their pricing is insane. Very, very low for the test strips. And all you do is use a lancet like this, and it's just a little thing with a little needle on the tip, and you just put it on your finger, push the button, and it's a little finger prick. That's really all it is. You get a little droplet of blood. You pull out the little test strip, put it right in the tip right here. It sticks out about there, and then just get a little blood sample, and it gives you a reading right here. It tells you exactly what your blood sugar levels are, and you could also put another test strip and find out what your ketone levels are. And there is something called the GKI index, the glucose ketone index. I highly recommend you check out my video on that where I explain how that works. But that's a really important factor. How high is your blood sugar and how high are your ketones? That really determines if you're in really ketosis deep or if you're not. Because some of you might say, hey, I'm in ketosis, but your blood sugar is too high. You're really not in ketosis that much. But really, don't worry so much about ketoacidosis. It's not something that you really need to worry about. You're not going to get in it unless you have really serious health conditions. But if you're really concerned about it, make sure, once again, you're just measuring your ketone levels. You want to keep your ketone levels at about 3, 3.5 and below. That's really it. So 0.5 is typically when you're getting into early ketosis, and you might go as high as 3, 3.5. The highest I've ever really gotten is 2.7. So that's really nutritional ketosis. That's therapeutic ketosis. That's not a state of ketoacidosis. Ketoacidosis is when you're in like the range of 7 and higher. That's ketoacidosis. But if you're measuring your levels, you're going to be good. So guys, I hope you liked the information. I hope it was beneficial for you. Don't leave. Make sure you check out my other videos. If you like this one, you're going to love those too. And once again, make sure if you really want to get all your questions answered and get in the best shape of your life, check out my keto course. It's down below in the link. And you won't have to think about anything. It's all plug and play. Everything from recipes to the food guide, shopping, videos. It's got it all for you. So anyway, see if it's a fit. Well, guys, I love and appreciate you. Thanks for watching today. This is Dr. Nick, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.